Good evening. My name is Crystal Bartholomew, and Dr. Powers gave me a probate case for our capstone project. So I'm going to go ahead and just give you the facts, which you can see right here. Pretty much Daniel Lee, who is a 62-year-old man, resided in St. Petersburg, Florida. He died intestate, meaning he had no will, on April 10th, 2016. He has 3 surviving children, Jack, Jeff, and Jordan, and they are all adults. Mr. Lee owned a cabin in North Carolina, and he also had a house in St. Petersburg, Florida, which would be his homestead. Jordan, his daughter, who has cared for him for the last 2 years, has been his primary caregiver. During that 2-year period, Jack and Jeff were both given $20,000 each from Mr. Lee. Jordan claims this was a loan and that it was not a gift, and she expects the $20,000 each to be paid back to the estate. Now, Jordan had to quit her job in order to care for her father for the last 2 years, and she now wants compensation in the amount of $40,000. She claims this was her father's intent, and she feels that she deserves this. Dr. Powers wanted me to open a state for probate, create appointment for a personal representative, create the final accounting to discharge, and to create a memorandum to discuss the loan of the sons and Jordan's request for the caretaker fees. Okay, I am going to discuss opening the estate for probate, so I'm just going to minus this real quick. Okay. The first thing I want to show you is the different types. There's formal administration and there's summary administration. Now, the total assets for my project was $527,000. So here you'll see that we're going to have to go with the formal administration because this could be filed when the assets are exceeding $75,000 or when it's necessary to appoint a representative to act on behalf of the estate. The summary administration is for when the assets do not exceed $75,000. So in this case, we are going to have to file a petition for administration. So if you go to this website, which is just the pinellasclerk.org, I opened up the document here, and they have this great checklist that tells you all the information that needs to be included for the formal administration. And it goes down, you just check it off to make sure that it's in the petition. Also, you can find what you need for the petition in the Florida probate rules, specifically Rule 5.200. It goes through all of the information, and you need to have a statement of interest of the petitioner, which in my case is Jordan Lee. You need to have her name, the address, and the name and the office address of the petitioner's attorney. You need to have the name and last known address of the deceased, their last 4 digits of their social security number, their date and place of death, and the state and county in which they lived. Also in the petition, you need to have the names and addresses of the surviving spouse. In my case, there was no surviving spouse, so we would go on to the beneficiaries and their relationship to the deceased. And then if they were minors, we would include their birth dates, but in my case, they are all adults. So the beneficiaries would be Jordan, Jeffrey, and Jack. You also need to show a statement showing venue, and that the personal representative, and if they are qualified under the laws of Florida, which we will go over in just a minute. You also need to have a statement whether or not there's other proceedings pending in another state or country. You need to have a list of all the value, of the approximate value, and of all the assets that the deceased had. And then in the intestate estate, which we do have, there needs to be a statement that after the exercise of reasonable diligence, the petitioner is unaware of any wills, or if they were aware, a statement on why the will was not being probated. So now I'll go ahead and show you my petition. Okay. And of course, I looked around on the internet and found examples on how to create one of these. So here you'll see that we're in Pinellas County, the estate of Daniel Lee, the case number, petition for administration, intestate, Florida resident, single petitioner, which is Jordan Lee. So here, Jordan Lee to file this petition for administration, and for that, show the court as follows. And then it goes down that checklist, or in the rules 5.200, all that information that is needed. So who has interest? Here it's Jordan Lee. We have the name of the deceased, his last known address, his age at the time of death, his last four digits of his social security number, the date of death, where he resided, and what county he was in. Also, we have the beneficiaries of the estate. No spouse, so we have the three children, adult children. In number 4, we have the venue and letting us know why, because we're in this county because it was the county of the deceased residence at the time of his death. We go on to address the personal representative, which Jordan A. Lee is petitioning to be the personal representative. And then over here, we say that she's qualified and that she is able and willing to serve. Number 6 addresses all the assets and the approximate value of the estate. 7 addresses that we do not have to file a federal estate tax return. I believe you do have to file if you're over $600,000. Number 8 addresses that Jordan is not aware of any other wills. And then 9 goes, there's no known other proceedings in any other state or county. And then the last line says, petitioner requests that Jordan A. Lee be appointed personal representative of the estate. And then we have the signature. So moving on, I'm going to go back to the Florida rules, and this is going to go into the appointment of the personal representative, which is 733.301. And I'm just going to go down to the section we need, which is right here, intestate estates, and the priority PR would be the surviving spouse. But again, in our case, we don't have a surviving spouse, so we're going down to the next one. The person selected by a majority in interest of the heirs, or the heir nearest in degree. If more than one applies, the court may select the one best qualified. I'm just going to stop right there because we're going to assume that Jordan Lee is going to be the personal representative. 733.303, which is right here, I'm circling, addresses persons not qualified to be a personal representative. So the person cannot have been convicted of a felony. They cannot be mentally or physically unable to perform the duties. They must be over the age of 18, because if they're under 18, they are not qualified. Also, which it does not go with our case, but just to say it anyway, if the person named as personal representative in the will is not qualified, letters shall be granted as provided in 733.301. So I have the documents that go along with the personal representative right here. And we have the oath of the personal representative, which is also in the rules. And then this needs to be filed. I'm not going to go that much into detail because you'll see it in the binder. We have the formal notice, which needs to be served to Jack Lee and Jeffrey Lee, letting them know that there was a petition for administration filed in the court. And then they need to respond in 20 days if they don't agree with it. Rule 5.040, which is going to give you all the rules on the formal notice. And then I also came across this website that pretty much told me everything that needed to be done in order to open the estate, to have this estate distributed, and then also closing the Florida probate. So this was a good website, and you can floridaprobatesolutions.com. For the final accounting, the rules on that could be found at 5.346, and it basically tells you the accounting standards, what needs to be included, and how that should be presented. I'm kind of running out of time, but just to address the last part of my project, and like I said, you all can see it in the binder. In regards to the loans to the sons, there was no written documentation, so Jordan would have to prove by doing oral arguments, as there was no note, there was no will, there was no nothing discussing that these were loans. As far as Jordan's request for caretaker fees, I'm going to go more in depth in my memorandum, but she might have to file a claim against the estate and then prove that there was a debt and that it was justifiable. I think that's about it for my project, and I hope you enjoy.